working really, really hard. It's not the most bestest time to be a teacher right now, just to the workload that we have and what the teachers have to deal with right now. Got everybody, to the deck, hands on, doing what they can, working extra hours. We have busing issues. We have students that are trying to readjust to being in school for so long. Emotional roller coasters every day, on top of trying to help kids learn stuff. It's not the cheeriest report I have for you right now. I'm sorry, but that's the reality that we're working in right now. I think it's behooving on everybody to lend a helping hand whenever they can. Kindness is very, very important right now, because that's what we need. We need to, recognize how hard people are working hard. The teachers are working every single day. There's teachers coming in on the weekends. It's not the same as before. You can't say, okay, it's a whole new world. I spoke about this last year about how difficult it would be to restart schools again. We have no subs. It was announced a couple of days ago that the state of Oregon, if you graduated high school, you can go sub. That's how bad it is. We're looking for bus drivers. I know the bus driving, they're working like crazy to get bus drivers up, but it's still affecting. We just found out today that another bus route had to get altered because we lost 4 drivers. October 18th, we'll change the way we do business. I just don't know how bad it's going to get. So, if you see a teacher, wave at them or elbow bump them because you can't give them a hug because of the COVID, the mask thing. Everybody needs some TLC right now. They need some care, some understanding. And it's a grind. It's going to be a grind for a while to come. I keep hoping for the COVID numbers to go down. They kind of do, then they don't, and they kind of do, and they don't. I guess the thing I'm most grateful right now for is it started to rain. And we all needed that rain. We needed to be able to have the rain so that, we didn't have to deal with fire season again. So I'm really happy with that. I do have, on a personal note, I have some amazing students. I really, really do. Very grateful for that. We've hired, I have a TA now, one of my ex-students that wants to become a teacher. So we're working through that process, hoping you become a teacher in our school district and stay here. Tremendous asset. So that would be a good thing for us to be able to do. But again, the teachers are working really hard, really faithfully, judiciously, honestly putting in a lot of hours, doing a lot of work. So like I said, get a chance, say thank you, fist bump, thank you to the Sedesco, that got a shout out to them. They're doing a great job. The bus drivers are killing it. The maintenance department, everybody's working really hard. So thank you to all those other people I don't get to see. Because without you guys, we'd have, buses, we need everything. So not very happy tonight, not total doom and gloom, but being pretty realistic that this is a tough place for everyone to be in. We got to work to make it better for everybody for a long time to come. So thank you for your time. And again, thank you to all my teachers that are working so hard, doing so much in a really stressful situation. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. And next, it looks like we have our East area reports.
Thank you, Megan. I am Liz Polstoit, the principal of Toledo Elementary, and I wanted to start off by just an overall update. We are super excited to have our students back full-time, 5 days a week. just overall a big bonus for us. Our enrollment, we ended with about 350 students in June, and that included all of our Edmentum and our comprehensive distance learning students. And this year we have about 380 students, and those are all of our in-person students. So a big increase for us. Our class sizes are looking great. Just really excited to have all those students back with us. We are getting ready for conferences next week, a lot of planning going into how to set up those conferences for great communication and building relationships with our families. We've been working on our goals for improving instruction. So we've been very deliberate this year on increasing in planning our all of our professional development, and planning ties into Lincoln County School District School Improvement Plan and Toledo Elementary's Continuous Improvement Plan. As we know, the more that the teachers have knowledge of these plans, the more effectiveness that those goals have. And so our goals, our action steps, and our strategies have all included teacher input. So that's growth for us already this year, and we look forward to improving that also. We are also continuing our administrative work with the Center for Educational Leadership. We've been working on some collective efficacy on behalf of our students, which includes our collaboration, problem solving, and planning for getting better, which all will increase our student learning and achievement. We're included in that is our, we're conducting student and teacher interviews to get their input on these steps. A different focus that we're working on this year is what we're calling short cycles that we're working on through the Center for Educational Leadership. And so our goal is to help teachers get from their current state to their ideal state. And we do that by creating actionable next steps. And so that we meet with our teachers, and we're beginning this. So this is a new cycle for us. So we're going to create an area of focus. We're going to set goals with them. We're going to decide on what evidence we're going to collect, our outcomes and our look fors when we're doing these. And then we do 3 sets of observations. So we're in there, and then we meet with these teachers after each observation to decide how's our progress going? What do we need to do next? So we're excited to get those going. We're also continuing our focused walkthroughs this year, and really with a lens of academic language and literacy within the classrooms and increasing our student engagement. We are really excited for our new math adoption that the board approved last year. So kindergarten through 5th grade, we adopted Ready Math, and then 6th grade, we adopted Go Math, which aligns with our secondary math adoption. So a lot of learning, a lot of professional development that's taken place, but we're just excited to have a curriculum. Our Avid Focus this year, we are working on interactive notebooks. So each of our grade levels, kindergarten through 6th grade, decided on one content area that they're going to implement these interactive notebooks in. And then we're also continuing our work with organization. It was our goal last year, and due to the lovely COVID times, we weren't able to quite achieve it the way we wanted to. So we're continuing our organizational goal through Avid, and that's with using our binders and planners and folders for our kindergarten group. A couple other big updates for us is we have Toledo Elementary. In November of 2020, we were awarded the Safe Routes to School through the Oregon Department of Transportation. We got halted last year because of COVID, and most of our planning and meetings were done online. So what we are getting ready to do is have a walk audit. Well, they will come and visit. So it's ODOT, the city of Toledo, the county, the school district will come and kind of evaluate our systems of what is going on with our transportation methods, and trying to create better, safer routes to school and more opportunities for students to be able to walk and ride their bike. As we know, Toledo Elementary is our location is a truck route to the mill. So we do have a lot of trucking. So it is very minimal of what we're limited on the transportation opportunities here. So that will be happening on November 10th. They'll finally be able to come and visit us. It will be small group, mask wearing, following all the COVID recommendations. And then another update is our work with the Children's Institute. So us and Crestview Heights were chosen to help create better opportunities to align our work with our pre-K through our elementary and making it more streamlined. So we began our work in mid-August. As a team, we created a problem of practice, and I'm just going to read it to you. So it says, students experience a disjointed early education system that's not aligned across the preschool to 5th grade years to support healthy development, academic achievement, and lifelong success. So right now we're working through that process of goals and actionable next steps of what we can do to help create a horizontal and vertical alignment of developmentally appropriate instruction, curriculum, and strategies. So us and Crestview have been meeting quite a bit. We've created and implemented some empathy interviews with our students to get their input on how they learn best, what struggles they have. And then throughout the year, we'll be meeting to create some very small little steps to see how the progress is going and what our next steps are to make big changes to create that pre-K 5th grade alignment. So overall, things are going great. Like Peter said, there are some high levels of stress and tension, but we couldn't do it without all the teachers' hard work, everyone's hard work in the schools, and that goes with our lunch and breakfast and custodial staff and our bus drivers and all the support from the district office. And then on a different note, my oldest daughter is now up at the Toledo Junior Senior High. So we have a great relationship working with Bart and Richard, but it's neat to be on the other side and be a parent now. So I know that can give a good little leadway over to Bart, who can introduce himself.
Well, thank you, Liz. I don't know. You've said it all. I appreciate the relationship we have with Liz and Jana down there. They're doing a tremendous job, and the product they are sending us of students is incredible. So I appreciate it. I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm Bart Rothenberger. I am the assistant principal athletic director up here, and currently I'm filling in for Richard Cedar as the principal. We get him back, our glue of Boomer Nation, November 1st. I'm very excited. But during the past few weeks, I've had the pleasure of having my old boss, Elise Tolan, back in the building. It's been awesome. And Tiana Tucker, they've been coming in, checking on and helping me in every fashion. And then this month I have the retired Mr. Bob Schindelman. So I appreciate all the help that those three have been giving me. And Mr. Cedar, get your tail feather back here. I need you, buddy. So I'm gonna move on. Okay, we're gonna go to the next thing here. We're going to talk about building goals. Obviously, graduation attendance are the keys this year over here at Boomer Nation. Improved 4-year cohort graduation to 90% for the class of 2022. Ninth grade on track was 55%. Last year, our cohort was at 84%. Attendance. We have an issue here. We got to improve it. We understand that. We're working hard to try and do everything we can, increase attendance on a regular tenders to 75% for this school year. Last year, due to COVID and stuff, we were down to 35.3%. Prior to COVID, we did get up to 69%. So we are working on some things. I'm going to talk about that on another slide a little bit. Culture and climate. Our Boomer Nation is so fun here. We are recognized as a gold school. And what that means is the Oregon Association of Student Councils recognized our leadership class as a gold school for everything they've done, from attending conferences to homecomings to everything on a point system. So last year, 2020-21, they were recognized as a gold school, and they're on track already this year to be recognized again as another gold school. So Crystal Taylor is doing a tremendous job in our leadership program. Working with student leadership on a weekly character dare. We're recognizing students with boomer tokens for specific positive behaviors. We're running out of boomer tokens, actually. So that's a positive thing. Identifying students of the month and focus on articulating what it means to be a part of Boomer Nation through our Rock Foundation, you know, being responsible, organized, cooperative, and kind. So go ahead there. We'll go next screen. Content area literacy. All staff participate in an Avid academic language and literacy module. I'm going to show you some word banks and some sentence stems and the words of the day. Students complete a fall diagnostic assessment for reading. All staff analyzed assessment data and grade band PLCs. Data showed a need for explicit vocabulary instruction, and teachers made classroom plans instruction. District content teams, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of the physical education district content team. And I want to, if we can move with the literacy emphasis, I'm going to move forward here just so you can see what I'm talking about. But within physical education, there wasn't much literacy being done. And so we wanted to figure out how can we get literacy and assessment into physical education. And when I spoke with the PE teachers throughout the district, they thought I was crazy. Are you really going to make us do this? And we are. You know, besides their essential question, their learning objectives, each day they're doing a couple vocab words. My physical education teacher, Jeff Taylor, did a tremendous job here. If you'll see to the far right, he provided 18 words, and then he wanted to do a paragraph, have them write a paragraph using as many of those words as he could in a paragraph. And what he found was astonishing. And he wants to do everything he can to help fix it throughout the whole school. And we see there's an issue and a need. And here's a little bit of what he wrote. I'm gonna just read this here to you guys. Overall, it takes a village to get each of these students ready for life. Although this is a new process for me and probably PE teachers across the nation, I think it's an important piece that is often overlooked. We out here at Toledo are going to continue to work hard to ensure our students get every opportunity to be successful. That's from Mr. Jeff Taylor. So I appreciate what he's done. And now the other PE teachers around the district are using his model, because every 4 weeks they do a different unit. So like next, I think it's badminton. So he'll just change those words, do another assessment, compare, contrast, and see how we can help with that process. Slide 6, engagement. Phone calls home, daily automated reminds sent out at 4 p.m., parent view apps that we're really trying to get parents engaged in Facebook posts. The toughest part is communicating, and we're working hard trying to do that, connecting with students in building and those out of building. We're just talking about doing some more home visits, study hall. Deanne Barnhart has done a tremendous job as our freshman success teacher, working on providing study halls after Wednesday for those an hour and a half. She's in there sitting with them, along with Mrs. Lahanye. List of teachers and times where they're available. Attendance, positive attendance rewards and notes home. If students are out for a length of time, we call and connect and offer resources for help with schoolwork or any other needs. And then students in quarantine complete a student learning log to track and try to assist them while they're at home during that quarantine if we can. So overall, things are tough right now. Everybody's kicking in, everybody's helping buses to cook, just like Liz said. Everybody's doing everything they can, and we're trying to stay positive. And it's just amazing having kids back in this building. And so I appreciate each and every one of you. And I hopefully Mr. Cedar will be back so Mr. Rothmer doesn't have to give this speech anymore. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
So Chair Colley, I just want to say how much I appreciate Liz and Bart, and how much these incredible professionals have stepped up since having Liz at Toledo Elementary School. I have to say that the school has turned around. It's been a transformation. And Bart, in particular, because of the role that he has played at Toledo Junior Senior High, has exponentially developed and grown as an administrator. Just fantastic step up. So appreciative of Miley's Tolan, of Tiana Tucker, of Bob Schindelman, of all the people that have come together to really make sure that Toledo stays on track. Before we turn it back to you, I would like Jenna Limbert to get her little self back on there. I saw her, she had a hat on, and introduce herself, because Jenna has had a lot to do with the success there. And I think that Liz would agree. Just introduce yourself, Jenna, and just say a few words about Toledo Elementary.
Hi, I'm Jenna Lindbergh. Don't mind me. I'm at the middle school football game right now. But I'm just fortunate to be at Boomer Nation with Liz, and how hard we've been working on our culture and climate and really meeting the kids where they're at. And we've, like Dr. Gray said, we've definitely seen a big culture change, and with meeting the kids and having it be where we're really looking at the whole child piece and coming together and being at where we're doing the best for kids. And so like this is tough times, but all of us working together from the staff and everyone to make it the best that we can.
Thank you so much, Jana. I just did not want to let you go without having you speak up for Toledo because of the work that you are doing there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Everyone is stepping up, and it's just been amazing. We also had conversations today in our all admin meeting about opportunities for the Toledo schools to connect firmly with the Siletz community and really work on multiculturalism and connection that has really taken a hard hit and a beating over the years between the areas of Toledo and Siletz, and how important it is for us to work together on building a bridge between cultures and using our equity strategies. And we could go on for another hour, but I just really appreciate Bart and the work he's done, and Liz and Jana and Richard for the work that they've done in Toledo, constantly asking themselves, what is a boomer? Who is a boomer? What does it mean to be part of Boomer Nation? And it's transforming. It's exactly what we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that report. I love the area reports. It's my favorite part of the meeting. So, all right, well, we'll move on to my second favorite part of the meeting, which is, of course, financial reports. Thank you so much, Kim.
That's pretty generous. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I've updated the financial reports as of September 30th. You can see, just a second, get over to my other screen here. I've updated September with the actual figures. And you'll note in the blue here, our other local income. 63,000 of that 87,000 is our final return of equity payment from PACE. All of the original members of the PACE Trust were promised a repayment of the capital investment that we made. And so that will be our final, third and final payment for that. Our monthly ADM figures are down here in the lower corner. We are at 5,163 ADM. We did budget at 5,201, so we are down slightly from where we estimated, but fairly close. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as we move through the year. I want to point out also that our beginning fund balance on this sheet is estimated at this point. We are currently undergoing our audit, our annual audit, and so those numbers will be firmed up fairly quickly. We'll report to the board in December on that. Our estimated beginning fund balance, you'll notice, is 14 million. And over here, the anticipated ending fund balance currently is 13 million, which is about $1 million short of what our beginning fund balance is. You'll know, remember last year, that balance climbed as we went through the year. A lot of that is due to savings from due to COVID, because we've got lots of extra funds that are paying for supplies and things that we normally pay from general fund. But so this shows that we're expecting, as we budgeted, to use $1 million of our ending fund balance to cover expenditures for the year. Have any questions about that page? Okay, let me make this a little smaller. This is our monthly comparison, projected to actual. The projected figures, remember, are a 6-year average. The interest on investments, you'll notice that's up a little bit, but because we're undergoing audit still, we have not made our segregated interest adjustment where we move some of the interest that's charged initially to Fund 100 into some of the various special revenue funds that are reserve funds that are carried, balances that are carried from month to month. So we allocate some interest to those, but we haven't made that entry yet for the year. So in the next couple of months, you'll see that decrease. And then, as I mentioned, 63,000 of this other local income was the PACE return of equity. Sorry, I got carried away there. Employee benefits, we typically see that underspent monthly because we budget as if everybody was taking full benefits, and we know that that doesn't happen. Also, there are some benefits that are typically overestimated because it's just too hard to get the exact pieces correct. For instance, workman's comp, we budget that at 1% because there's 4 or 5 different moving pieces there. So as we go through the year, you would expect to see that being underspent throughout the year. Again, as I mentioned, with supplies, we're underspending again. A lot of that's due to the extra COVID money that we have. Our purchase services monthly comparison is fairly normal this month. You'll see our cleaning services. Just a second, my lights are going to go off. Sorry about that. The $154,000, that's our monthly payment for our cleaning services with Sodexo. Let's see. Up here. The transportation invoice, remember that lag's a month behind, so that would have been for August. And on the charter school payments, that is what the monthly payment will be moving forward. I do need to make an adjustment for Lincoln City Career Tech because we budgeted a lower ADM than they're actually seeing. So that's good news for them. And then you'll see on the bottom here, I always take out the transportation and the charter school payments because last year those varied quite a bit. And the July and August payments with the charter schools are higher. And so I take those out to just to smooth it out so that you can see what the rest of the normal purchase services are throughout the year. And you can see right now it's hovering pretty close to 300,000. Any questions so far? Okay, make this a little smaller. I want to remind everybody that these notes at the bottom, the beginning fund balances, again, they're not audited, so they're estimates. And anything you see with 3 asterisks, for instance, special revenue grants right here, the preschool promise grant, the student investment account, and food services, those are all reimbursement grant accounts. So we pay out the expenses ahead of time and we get reimbursed later. So those will typically run throughout the year. Those will run in the negative. So that's not cause for concern because this is more of a cash flow statement and it doesn't show the revenues that we're expecting. The building maintenance fund has a beginning fund balance of 1.8 million, but 745,000 of that was the payment we received from LBL ESD to construct the additional 4 workspaces over at the Early Childhood Center. And so that will translate into expenditures there. And that will give them about a 12-year, possibly more long-term lease for that building. The expenses on food services, we've got July and revenue and expense, and therefore food service program. And then the balance of the expenditures are for some capital purchases. We received an equipment grant for a new freezer down at Crestview Heights, and that's been received. We spent $23,000 on a mobile generator for Taft High School. It's primarily going to be at Taft High, but can be moved to one of the other schools as needed. We spent about $38,000 on Taft High School kitchen, $85,000 so far at Newport High School cafeteria, and about $9,700 at Taft Elementary. And the balance, the fund balance you see there is about 3 months worth of operating expenses, which we are allowed, that's the maximum we're allowed to carry over. Okay, let's see. Our technology account, I wanted to point out, we do have $162,000 as a fund balance, but we spend about $200,000 a year on just data lines and professional services. So, and then we also are paying for Synergy from there. That was about $83,000 this year. That amount will decrease over the next couple of years, but $200,000 to $300,000. That's going to last us, 2 or 3 years with that balance. And that remind you that that account does not have a source of revenue other than a small amount of local property tax revenue from prior years, and then our tech fees that we're collecting. Let's see. The PERS bond account and the general obligation bond accounts, those will continue to increase as we go on through the year. We have payments in December and June. And the PERS bond account is quite a bit higher because we anticipate that the debt service payments in the future will be larger. So we have a reserve balance there to cover those. And I think that's everything on there. Any questions so far? Make this a little bigger. Our bills and claims are, we've got most of the typical monthly expenses that you see. We have some payments to RK Construction for work on the North Area site that's continuing up there, removing the extra debris and creating those berms that Rich talked about in a prior meeting. Northwest textbook, right here, we bought $10,000, almost $11,000 worth of replacement textbooks for items that were lost or not returned during comprehensive distance learning. And we used our COVID relief funds for those. And you can see West Coast Energy, that's the generator for Taft High that I mentioned. Also with our COVID funds, find it here. This charge to Bearcon for two-way radios. Those are extra radios and batteries for the schools for safety, especially out on the playground, additional communication with physical distancing. And there's some seismic upgrade charges finishing up at Ocean Lake. And the charge to Sodexo right here on 924 for extra cleaning services, that $32,000, that's not extra cleaning services. Those are actually some additional air purifiers that we bought for teachers whose rooms needed some additional ventilation, and those were paid for with COVID funds. And I will make that correction and get that posted on the website. And then we have some utilities and our investments report somewhere. And the interest rates held pretty steady this month. I did get notice today that the LGIP account will be going down to 0.45% in October. And that's my report. Do you have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
And this is regarding the supplies for the kitchen. Since we are working with Sedesco, we own the appliances.
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
All right.
We own the kitchens and we pay for all of the equipment, and that comes out of the food services account.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, so is first student here with us tonight, or we only have our written report? They are? Okay, great. So we have our written report from first student on pages 6 and 7 of our board folder. And if they'd like to add anything, or if the board has additional questions for first student.
So there actually was something I wanted to mention that was mentioned out of Peter's report, Mr. Lahany's, that I just want to clarify. According to the written report that Darlene has given us, which I found very detailed and very descriptive, we lost 3 drivers in the last month. What happened yesterday was not that we lost 4 drivers. We did not lose 4 drivers yesterday. We had several people home ill and not with COVID. So those folks will be back. So I just want to be clear, we did not lose 4 drivers yesterday. There were 3 people out sick and not with COVID. However, we could use more drivers. So anyway, I just wanted to get that straight. So what I thought might be okay, school board, is she's got her report, Darlene. And could you wave at us, Darlene, so that we can see who you are? Yep. And I also saw earlier that Kim Bolden from Lincoln City was also on the line. Sarah Gibbs is also on, Monroe is also on the, I had you Gibbs, you were Hibbs, and now you're Monroe. So anyway, Sarah's here as well, our liaison. And of course, the director, Rich Baloney. She's got number 1, change of leadership, number 2, retention and recruiting, driver candidate comparison report, driver shortage routing and some solutions, and then the Khajiit onboard Wi-Fi for the buses. I thought maybe it would be okay for Darlene to kind of pick and choose out of this report, and the board could always ask questions, just some things that you noticed that you're working on in the last month. What's most important to you as our local manager?
Well, what's most important to me is retention and recruiting, that portion. And the cards that we've received that we got printed from our corporate office to help distribute the word that we need drivers. You can see it in the written report, very small, but they are about half-page size. And they're very, very informative, very colorful. And we are asking our drivers to distribute them to the kids. We got permission from Dr. Gray to do so. And our drivers are passing them out. And I'm hoping that the word gets out and people find it in their hearts or in their needs that they need to become school bus drivers to help their community. I wanted to especially point out that the district and First Student that they've worked together to bring in the retention bonuses, which have been received very well by our employees, by everybody actually, me too, thank you. And we're having weekly reports that we're going to report out to Sarah and to Rich in regards to what the numbers are and where they are. It was just a matter of getting the word out, and with the retention bonus news, we also gave the district T-shirts to the drivers, so they were happy all around to see those, and that warmed my heart to see that. It wasn't a them and us, it was an us, just a pure us. We were all working together, and you could really tell when we had that presentation. That meant a lot to me.
Thank you so much. Is there anything in addition that Kim Bolden, you from Lincoln City, that you would like to add? I see you on the screen.
Oh.
I see you rolling away, and now I see you coming back. You cannot go away.
I just had to turn down some background noise. You know, that really was a high point to have that happen. I think it was a big surprise for everyone, and it was very appreciated. And I think that it's helping to boost some morale enough to get them out to try and get their friends and family in here to drive a bus, hopefully.
Very good. How's about from you, Sarah? What have you noticed?
I think we're really excited about the new attendance incentive, the retention incentive that we're doing to encourage everybody to come in to their scheduled shifts and therefore be able to meet the student transportation needs of our families. It's been a big challenge with staffing shortages and will continue to be so, but we're literally putting everything in the pot to try and come together and make it work. So working really hard on that. And then the student Wi-Fi is really exciting. In my personal opinion, we worked hard to pull that together and do a lot of investigation on it, setting that up on all the buses for the students that have long daily commutes. And our commutes for students are longer right now because the routes are combined with driver shortages. So allowing students to access connectivity for homework is very, very important. And then our student athletes really benefit when they're missing class in the afternoon for long trips, and then late nights back, they're able to connect with their district devices and personal devices if they choose so. All, of course, filtered with the strict SIPA compliant filters and all of that wonderful thing. But we've had a lot of innovations happening in transportation, and we don't give up. It's uphill.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I know that on October 7th and 8th that Rich had, and maybe several of others of you had time with the new leadership that has replaced Mike Hamill. And we were very pleased with Mike, and he was very, very good for us and did a lot of good work for us. And I think what we're trying really hard, and particularly Director Baloney, really trying to impress upon everybody how difficult this has been on everybody. It's been hard on families. It's been hard on kids. I think it's been hard on the drivers. It's been hard on Darlene, who's trying to hold this together with spit and glue at this point, and really trying hard to keep it all together and keep it all moving. There is a bus driver shortage nationwide. This is not just happening here. This is happening everywhere. And I didn't know if I'd ever see the day where really bus drivers have carte blanche. I mean, and we don't really want to do a whole lot to push them away because we need them here. Someday, I would like to have my administrative assistant back. You know, I think it's extraordinary that the superintendent's office and the board have an administrative assistant, the highest really ranking secretary in the district, is driving bus. And not only that, is driving combo routes. And I think he'd probably like to get back to driving his trips. But, you know, everybody is working really hard, from my mouth to God's ear, no doubt. And, you know, we need to make sure that the new Wi-Fi is powerful and it's doing its job and not running too slowly. So we'll need to touch base on that. But I mean, I'm ready at this point to put little screens up in the buses and let kids watch videos. So on the way, like you used to do with your kids, you stuck a video machine behind your headrest in the car and, you know, stuck in Finding Nemo. So, you know, we're ready to just entertain these kids, even if they don't do their homework, just to keep them on the bus safely and quietly. It has been a real innovation. So I'll stop talking and see what questions the board has.
I don't have a question, but I think that technology is a really cool thing to have. I really appreciated, we read some comment from a parent who really appreciated that ability of her child, student athlete, to be able to access the internet, to be able to do work for school on the way to a contest or on the way back. I think that's just really an awesome thing.
Having had two grandchildren that went through the athletics and the school system here, that's a big deal. They probably wish they'd have had that because they had to do long trips, and not having that ability is, as long as you're able to capture it, that's awesome.
We started working on that a year ago. COVID just got in the way. I mean, we knew we wanted to put Wi-Fi on the bus, and we also knew that we wanted to have the ability when you were parked in port to be able to review behavior referral video quickly and very, very quickly. And we're working on that as well. So, you know, all that we've done since we've moved from Mid-Columbia to First Student has all improvements. It's just been a rocky road with COVID. So thank you, Chair Colley.
All right. Just take a minute to unmute. It's not as fast as just talking. So great. Looks like next is board reports. So would anybody specifically like to go first from our board members? Okay, I can go first. Oh, go ahead, Santila. Yay.
I watched the homecoming games, and Irish won. That was fun. So that
Irish.
Was a fun night.
Was that the one where Principal Skirvin was doing the cowboy dance? And she was the halftime show?
That was the following. So homecoming, they had their really big event with the floats and the homecoming court and all of that. The following game, Walport's good at pulling up entertainment at all times. So yeah, the game after that, Miss Skirvin was line dancing center field. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a cold evening, but it was just nice to feel the spirit of the parents in the community coming together and cheering for the kids. So for the students, it was a good thing.
I can go next, I guess, real quick. I haven't had anything that's occurred since I've been busy with medical and travel and whatnot, but I'm back. So, and as you can see, talking to Eddie, I'm trying to go visit a couple of schools, if not this week, next week. So I want to get out and about more, and I'd like to get in and talk to students at some point too, even if it's at lunchtime or whatever, see how things are going. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I attended the Boomer game against Central Lynn, and that was a 36-0 shutout, which is pretty amazing. Got to talk to some teachers and some other staff there, and just kind of building on what Karen, what you have said, and what Peter and Liz have said about the challenges of being back in school and how hard everybody's working. One of the things I heard was about Barb mentioned the Freshman Success Program, and in all my years of teaching, we understood as a staff that it was critical to get to freshmen that first semester if they were failing. And it always seemed like it was a really, really hard thing to do. And Deanne Barnhart mentioned that she's kind of working on that program, and that they have identified kids who are failing classes, and they're doing interventions right now, which is really an effective thing, because if a kid has a failing grade as a freshman, their chances of not graduating go up. And so that's really an important thing. And I'm really glad to see that it's an effective thing that's happening right now before kids get themselves in too big a hole. And the other thing I want to share is I'm an Aspire mentor, and I met with one of my students. Hopefully I'm going to have a couple more, but just to kind of share the good news. I know this is all very challenging for the school district coming back and getting things rolling and reestablishing protocols. But the product, you know, if I can be so economic about it, our graduates, they're doing good. The one student that I'm working with, she's got a 3.5. She's really involved in that process early for applying to schools, figuring out what she wants to do. She's going to be ready. And I think that's good news. And I'm really, really pleased to have a small contact with that process. I think it's, you know, we're so focused, I think, sometimes on all the challenges that we face that we don't realize, yeah, we're doing well. We're doing our jobs. And I am just really thrilled about that.
It's wonderful.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everybody. And I just have been really enjoying seeing sports getting back to business, seeing meetings happening in person, even though we're not in person, but I know things are happening in person. It's just, yeah, it's nice to see people start connecting again after kind of this long absence. Also, Eddie and I became accountability buddies to keep each other on track for trying not to forget things as we move into this very busy school year together. So that hopefully will keep me on track, and I will help keep him on track too, since he's working 17 jobs right now. That's what I'm hearing. Okay.
Yes.
Great. So yeah, that's just about it. Seeing all the sports get going and people starting to make those connections and try and get back to this new normal of what things are. I've also been in the classroom. It's been a delight. I forgot. Twice as hard as it was before, but still better than sitting in front of a screen all day. And then if nobody has anything else to add, we can just move on to Superintendent Report, Dr. Gray.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I'm hoping that the board had a good time at the OSBA Roles and Responsibilities workshop.
It's right there to talk about. Yes. And
yeah. I just wondered.
OSBA, I had a good time at that. I was anxious to hear other takeaways from that. So Peter or Mike or Santila, if you had anything that you particularly brought away, we did do our OSBA Roles and Responsibilities training so that we are all conscientious and responsible board members.
I have to admit, I have not done it yet. I'm going to do it this week. I finally have time. So like I said, I just got back yesterday and I went right out the door 2 hours later again to take my granddaughter up to Dornbacher for tests and whatnot and spent the night up there. So I'm trying to catch my sleep back. Spending a week up with my son I haven't seen in quite a long time in Seattle. It was quite a trip and I enjoyed it. And I planned on doing it while I was up there, but other things happened. So it's the first vacation we've had together, my wife and I, in years. So we enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed the conversation with her. I continue to learn a lot. Every time we get together, I'm learning something. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd second what Santilla said about the benefits of being together at least for a specific training. And I appreciate that training and learning how to be a board member. It's still a steep learning curve.
Yes.
I'm glad there's patience out there.
Yeah, that's always such a good, clear training and a nice reminder. If you haven't heard it before, I think I was so surprised the first time. It was not what I expected exactly. And so many laws and regulations that go and bind us into how we act and what our responsibilities are.
Yeah, it was a lot of information just in a concentrated form. So yeah. Hard to process.
I think the presenter was very good.
Totally.
I've probably been through that training half a dozen times, and every single time I learned something new. Yeah. Every single time. And I've had all different presenters, no two presenters. And I thought that she did a wonderful job. And I was so grateful that the board did that. Liz Martin was with us. She's gone through that a number of times, just like I have. And when you're bringing a new board together, it's a good process to go through as a newly constituted board with 3 new members out of 5. And then it's tape recorded. So Mike can pull the tape recording in. He can watch that. So that was great. So I'm going to move into the superintendent's report board. I have a very short safety report. I really have very little to say at this point. Tiana, later on in the meeting under the items of discussion information, is going to talk about the mandatory vaccine update. I will tell you that as of right now, 94% of our district staff are vaccinated. So that is our rate. And as I said, I will not steal Tiana's thunder. She'll have more to say about that later. We know that there is, Pfizer is working on a shot for kids 5 to 11. I'm not sure when that will be out, but we want to be part of the collaboration and partnership in when that comes out to be able to offer that to our families and to our children. In addition, we know that, as Peter Lahanye mentioned, you know, the cases are down. Sometimes they look like they go up, but it's a slow decline as opposed to the last time when it was a precipitous decline. This has been a much more rounded decline, and it is taking a lot longer because it's a mutation. There have been no or very few, if maybe no, Susan Van Loo can correct me if I'm wrong, transmissions of COVID at school. This is not where people are getting COVID. Yes, we have people that come to school and have COVID, but they are not transmitting it at school nor getting it at school. So that's a win for us. We are following our protocols. We are following them closely. And the quarantining of our children and our staff is difficult, and it is leading to a lot of the difficulty. And I was hoping that Tiana Tucker, you would talk a little bit during your portion about you and Katie Barrett's idea around how to use some of our staffing to help relieve some of the quarantine teaching issues later on in your presentation, and I will remind you about that. So that's it. I don't really have it. I even asked Susan, what else could I report on? And there's really nothing going on. We're following our protocols to the letter of the law, literally. And I have a small group of superintendents meeting with Governor Brown on Monday at 3 o'clock. And we'll see what she's got to say about how things are going. We hear that there might be some things changing. I don't really know what that could be since October 18th, which is next Monday, is the deadline for the vaccination mandate. Susan, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that covers it. I just am really excited that public health is looking at our close contacts, the students who they end up determining need to quarantine, and really finding that we are not having transmission of the virus based on school exposures. So to me, that's an incredibly positive statement to all of our school buildings and the work they're doing there.
Well said. Well said. Moving on, the 2021-22 Division 22 assurances. Division 22 assurances come out of Oregon Administrative Rule 581-022-2305 that says that all school districts will assure the board and community that we are following the laws of the state of Oregon. Oops, I can hear me. Yikes, it is echoing. So you've gotten the addendum. In the addendum, we have 3 areas that we have written something to the Department of Education about. One of them is library services or media specialists. Currently, we do not have a librarian at the beginning of the new 2022 school year, 2022 year. We will be looking again to hire a school district librarian. We could not hire one in the last year, and we are looking again. And in the meantime, Brian Fresky, our ed tech administrator, has been fulfilling that role. In addition, we got permission from State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Deputy Colt Gill, to instead of having everybody do the state assessments, we asked people to opt into them. If you'll recall, the state of Oregon asked to be excused from them. The federal government would not excuse us from them. We thought it was ludicrous for us to take a state assessment in a COVID year. They would not agree to our waiver for the state of Oregon. And so we will definitely go back to doing our state assessments next year, which is this year, in 21-22. But last year we did an opt-in instead of an opt-out. And that was approved by Colt Gill at the highest level before we did that. And then the final one is regarding the new dyslexia law. And we will make sure that we have ODE approved and certified dyslexia trainer is provided 11 sessions for a total of 27.5 hours on training, October 4th through March 14th. That's our plan. We've already started them because I saw them. And I know that Dr. Barrett is doing an excellent job of making sure that this happens for the district. She is in charge of this as the elementary curriculum instruction director. And she is working with one of our teachers on special assignment, Charlotte Galen, who is our district specialist. So those are the three areas. Again, district librarian, state assessments, and dyslexia. We have a plan to fix all of that in our Division 22 assurances. This does not require a board vote. This is required to have the board hear me say these words. And for the community to hear me say these words, that we are compliant in every other of the 1,000,001 areas that we have to be compliant in. But these three stood out, and they're really COVID related, and we're just going to continue to soldier on. I don't know if the board has any questions. This is an annual report.
Dr. Gray, as far as the dyslexia training goes, is that targeted for elementary areas or is it K-12?
I'll have Dr. Barrett answer that question.
And that's a good question. We had some staffing changes. So our dyslexia law requires that in a K-5 school, we have a dyslexia trained classroom teacher. And we had one school where our dyslexia trained classroom teacher became an administrator. And then we started our new Compass online K-12 school. So they are also in need of a dyslexia expert. So our literacy specialist, Charlotte Galen, did all the training last summer to be the trainer for the dyslexia trainings. And so she is taking a group of teachers who have volunteered, and then the 2 teachers who will be the dyslexia experts at those schools through a training. So we'll actually have more teachers trained than what our requirement is through the state.
And Dr. Barrett, that's focused K6 or K-12?
So the way the law reads is any K-5 school, and because of the structures of our schools, we've decided to make sure we have somebody trained in all of our elementary schools.
So the dyslexia law, if you don't mind, Katie, I'll say just a wee bit more, and you can correct me if I am wrong. This is a K-12 law. It's not a law just for elementary school, but certain specificities are in the law, and they are actually specified K-5. But this school district is going to be working on a strategy that is K-12, because we know for a fact that kids K-12 have dyslexia, and many adults, and it isn't something you grow out of. You can look for a lot more. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. Any other questions from the board? Moving on. Next is the annual or required SIA report. That is the Student Investment Account report. And I will be handing that off to somebody. And I think it's Katie. Oh, yay. I was going to guess that, or Maya-Lise, but I couldn't figure it out. But anyway.
Well, Maya-Lise is going to speak to the secondary pieces for sure. Thank you all so much. I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation I'm going to share with you. We are required to present to the board yearly on our student investment account and how that is moving. And so I'm going to do that now. I do want to give you a little background because I know we do have new board members who were not on the board when we started this process. So I just wanted to make sure you had a little bit of background on the student investment account. The student investment account really has 4 categories: reducing class size, well-rounded instruction, instructional time, health and safety. So these 4 categories, some or all of the money can be spent in these little pots of money. But what we really are required by law to spend the money is around students' mental and behavioral health needs and increasing students' academic achievement to reduce disparities for focal populations. So as we put our plan together, that really was our district focus. So themes, as we met with our community engagement, as we were planning for our original SIA plan, we had many community forums throughout the district in all 4 areas. We had meetings before board meetings, we had community meetings, we met with students in the high schools, we met with specific groups of parents. And here are some of the themes that came out from the surveys and the meetings that we had. The community really wanted us to expand support for students with behavior needs. That came out as a theme in all areas. Increasing mental health support for students and staff, increasing supports and accessibility to the educational system for our most impacted students, increasing co-curricular and extracurricular opportunities for students was came out as a theme that was very important to the community. And then continuing to ask families about their barriers to engagement and what would make for welcoming environments. So they really wanted to be involved and continued to be involved as we moved through this student investment and planning and execution of the plan. So this is just the big themes that arose. It's not an exhaustive list. So we do have the full community engagement report online if anybody is interested in seeing all of that. So as we developed our strategies, we targeted 6 strategies that we really wanted to focus on. And we talked about if we increased targeted instructional time into the summer, then we were going to increase those access to educational opportunities to reduce summer slide for our most impacted students. So again, really targeting students to give them extra opportunities around instruction. Our second strategy was around the equitable and healthy schools. We really wanted to implement services that support students' mental and behavioral health. And if we provided those aligned, coordinated, and comprehensive supports for all students and families, we knew that we would have an impact. The third strategy was around that co and extracurricular opportunities for students. We wanted to be able to equitably increase those opportunities, that students would become more connected to their home community, culture, and school, and that would result in increased attendance and academic success and overall mental and behavioral health. Our fourth strategy was around accessibility to the educational system for our most impacted students and their families. So again, providing opportunities that would become obtainable for student achievement and community connectedness would increase. Our fifth strategy was engaging stakeholders through that two-way communication and culturally specific meetings in an equitable, intentional, and meaningful way. Then our outcome would be that our community and school district together would use our collective voice to approve upon the implementation and evaluation of our plan. So as you see, these strategies really are, it's really that if then, right? If we do this, we provide this, this is what our outcome should be. Our final one was around targeted classroom, additional targeted classroom staff. So then our students who are emerging bilingual, native, or receiving special education services would have increased support in accessing core content and educational resources. So as we decided what we wanted to spend these dollars on, these are the strategies that were guiding our decisions. Now, here's what we did experience. Of course, as soon as we had this beautiful plan, we did all of this work. We had a fantastic plan. COVID hit. And we experienced a 69% reduction in our expected award. So what that resulted in was our expected award was $4.6 million, and we ended up with 1.4. So as you can imagine, that impacted our choices that we could make. So we had to revise our priorities, and we presented that updated plan last year to the board at the board meeting. Our grant agreement is posted on the website, and the new agreement will be posted. Now, also at ODE, we had some longitudinal growth goals as part of SIA. Those were suspended and replaced with progress markers during the years of COVID. So here is a glimpse at our annual SIA expenditures around staffing, North Area care team, supplies and mileage, some curriculum for both suicide prevention and special education, some summer school dollars, social emotional learning screener and high school assessments. Our Remind system, which is our communication system, was also purchased with these dollars. And Eddyville Charter School is part of our SIA plan. The other two charter schools went on their own to apply for SIA, but Eddyville joined in with our application, so they also had an allocation of funds. So here are our 2021 staffing details. And as you can see, we did increase staff. We have our equitable and healthy school administrator. We've increased Indian education assistants and special education assistants. We increased bilingual tutors in the north and west areas where we see the greatest need for emerging bilingual support in the classroom. And those were at the secondary level so that they could increase in their different classes. We needed more support. Elementary counselors, our reading and math TOSA, science and math TOSA, Hispanic family liaison, music teacher, PE teacher, and our future bound administrator are the staffing that was increased through SIA. We did have, as I said, some challenges and barriers to implementation. We really had that reduction of state allocation just really blew our plan up. It really did. Going from 4 million to 1 million, we had some changing to do. And we knew there were some key positions that we needed to provide that were direct services to students that we wanted to keep in our plan. However, we had a lack of applicants for many of those open positions. So even at the end of last year, there were still positions that would be SIA funded that we could not find applicants for. Most especially the lack of mental health providers in our area. We wanted to be able to provide that care team staff, and we did struggle finding the specialists to take those positions. However, we did have some successful outcomes, and we do like to focus on those. So we moved our plan forward with intention. We did have improved community engagement. So we increased our school level family information nights during Zoom, via Zoom during this entire pandemic. We increased our Hispanic family information nights via Zoom. We increased our meetings with the tribal community. We were able to hire the bilingual customer service positions in the north and west area, which were key positions in our school offices. So when parents call or when parents come in, they have a bilingual person that they're meeting right there. So they don't have to go find somebody to help them. They have somebody right there in the office. Our equity work with the hiring of our healthy and equitable school administrator, the creation of our district equity team. We have started professional development around equity with both our administrators and at our school level. And we've increased that Title VI Indian education staff.
Katie?
Yes.
Can I just jump in really quick? One thing I'd like to point out, through the process of the development of the SIA, when we first started doing our needs assessment and working with the community, we started to work more with the tribal community. And since then, we've really moved to where we actually are in a full-on consultation model, as opposed to give them a survey and get data and then see what we want to do with it. So we now meet on a monthly basis with the tribal community with Alyssa Lane Keene, and she's able to just kind of go through where we're at, and we can problem solve things before they become an issue where we need to have a needs assessment and see what we can do. We're able to just look at small things and see how we can provide stronger support. And so I think a lot of good can come out of it, even when we don't have money and we can't fill some of our positions. Just setting that up and establishing now where we really are in constant communication, as opposed to waiting for annual communication and hoping that we make the right decision, has been a great thing, including with the Hispanic Family Information Nights. And a lot of the things that started as a way to gather information, we realized need to be ongoing if they're going to be impactful for our community.
That's right.
Thank you. Yes, as a matter of fact, we just had our first Family Hispanic Night last week. And we had over 40 families joining us for that time. So it's very exciting to see the communication, the two-way communication we're able to have with our families is really increasing with all of our families. So more successful outcomes we had is progress with our multi-tiered systems of support. And that was through the creation of the North Area Care Team, which puts some very specified people. And I have a slide coming up specifically on North Area Care Team. So I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. Continued refinement of our PBIS and academic tiered systems of support in our schools. And then the hiring of the student support facilitators to help in our schools with some of those PBIS systems. We also have our data team, so continued school level PLC work, as well as our district aligned PLC work with grade band and content teachers. That was something that we started during COVID. And as we spoke with teachers, it was something that they found high value in and didn't want to let go. So we are continuing that through this school year. Although we're not able to provide the amount of time we did last year because we had the Wednesdays that were kind of all planning days for teachers, but we still dedicated about one Wednesday afternoon a month for them to continue with that work, as well as on some all-day PD days, we can provide some of that work.
Great. And then with ninth grade on track, board member Vinci talked about when he was at Toledo, hearing how they're working with the ninth grade on track progress. So we're able to really focus on ninth grade and catch them prior to going into 10th grade and work in the summer to see how we can support any credit deficits and get our plans in place early, including starting to have those conversations when they're in 8th grade. What are some things that they're going to need, some skills we need to develop prior to students heading into 9th grade so that we can have a successful continuum for them, as we know it's an early predictor for graduation.
So the North Area Care Team, I have about 3 slides just to kind of give you an overview, because this is something that we are really focusing on that we wanted to do in all 4 areas, but due to the budget cut, we did start in the North. So we were able to start that team in the North. So their mission is really a district team that provides integrated services to students and their families as part of a multi-tiered system of support. These individuals provide specialized expertise in coordinating and providing care and support for students. Their vision is we integrate seamlessly with school systems to support the whole child by matching resources to clearly defined needs. So what that looks like in our MTSS triangle, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, as you see, the care team will be working with the top 2 to 3% of tier 3 students. So these are students that need even more. It consists of services that will support both the student as well as their family. So it's that wraparound care idea. And what we have provided through SIA is looking at, we have a social worker, a behavior specialist, and a nurse hired. The child family team process includes trauma-informed, student family-centered, it's restorative and strengths-based. So really the goal is to increase attendance, increase graduation rates, improve relationships between the school, students, and families, and the community resources to improve student self-regulation and executive functioning skills. So again, really speaking to that behavior piece, to that mental health piece for our students, we were still able to provide that through our SIA fund. So when we look as key reflections at the entire SIA support, our district prioritization is to continue to reference stakeholder feedback. It's really important that we continue that two-way conversation with our stakeholders. We remain aligned to our district improvement of graduation and attendance goals, and our monthly conversations around budget adjustments and staffing needs as we look to where the support really needs to be targeted in our district for our students. Our staff remains focused on student achievement and mental health. And although COVID impacted our district, it did not stop us from moving forward to benefit students, staff, families, and community. And that's something that we're really proud of, because this definitely could have stopped us in our tracks, and it did not. So that is the overview and presentation of our student investment account for the board. So if you have any questions that Myalise and I could answer.
I have a question. Why is it only at North area?
Right, that's a great question. We wanted it to be all 4 areas, and that was in our original plan. But because we only received a quarter of the money that we planned on, we wanted to really focus on the area that we felt would need it the most. And since the North area experienced the fires last year, we knew there probably would be some greater need in the North area to begin.
In addition, I just want to continue that line of thinking, Katie. This is a pilot in the North, Centilla. It's going to all 3 the other areas as well. So we're not getting a quarter of the funds anymore. We're getting our full funding almost. It's not quite the 4.6, it's about 3.9, but it was our intention, just as Katie said, but we piloted in the North because frankly, they were the most ready, and they had the most things ready for this system to be able to be implemented as a pilot. So next school year, in the 22-23 school year, all areas will have care teams.
So what prevents us from truly working with the community, with the already existing organization and services to make this happen in the area? This is a beautiful report, but it breaks my heart because we still have this cap that we're not engaging some of these things. And I understand the working with the Hispanic, but we also have other speakers of languages that when we speak of bringing interpreter to meetings and stuff, we of course we're talking about the Hispanics, Spanish speaking. Perhaps we can change our language and said that we make sure that all languages we try, because when we start to focus in one race in our community, then we're still leaving out a whole lot of people that still needed this service. And I understand it. I embrace the effort, but I'm feeling a little frustrated because this is a beautiful report in this, but if you did not know your community, you would believe that this is very, very good. It breaks my heart because this is not existing in a way that I see that need to be. And I think there is a room to work with already existing services to start some of this in all the areas. So that is my voice.
Thank you, Centilla. Susan, did you have a comment you wanted to make? I can see you.
Yes, I was just going to reply to that is part of this pilot project. The care team is about integrating services with other organizations in the county, and current status of organizations in the county that like our Lincoln County mental health partners, they also are experiencing a lack of staffing right now. And so it is the thing we know we need to do, which is to coordinate services throughout the county. And there are some missing school pieces to that coordination of service. And that's what we're trying to set up so that then we can articulate that and have that partnership with our county partners.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. That connection piece that you just mentioned is so key to why the care teams are different than anything else we've ever done. And it's really putting the schools in connection with all of those players, which frankly, we haven't done and we don't do. So I would like to, so if we have any other questions regarding this, this is a required annual report. As I mentioned, we are at the higher level of almost $4 million. We have a full-on plan. We're implementing our plan, and we're going to be continuously reporting back to the board regarding our outcomes. You know, COVID hit in the middle of all this. It knocked us right off our feet to be able to implement our student investment account. Remember, these are not federal dollars. These are state dollars via the legislature. They are permanent dollars paid for through the business tax money. So this is not coming and going money like CARES Act or ESSER funds. These are permanent state funds like Measure 98.
And Dr. Gray,
yes.
For the next fiscal year, you're expecting $3+ million for this program?
Almost 4. Mm-hmm.
Almost 4. And why did we get less than the nearly 4 million this for this current year?
Yeah. So Kim, would you like to answer that question? Unless you aren't there. This is just a picture. So I think that it's all very connected to me, to COVID and what happened. And if you can't collect the taxes from the businesses because things are all depressed, then you can't get the money that you've been promised. But because the tax revenues that actually came in the following year were so much higher than anybody believed they would be, they've gone right back up to saying that we can be promised most of what we were being promised to begin with. And these are allocated on an ADM level. Everything went down, everything. So we had some pretty horrible experiences with finance. So did the businesses.
Thank you.
But things went back up, surprisingly. And the taxes were paid, so we have the money. So I'm going to move on. Thank you so much to those who presented and who brought together that beautiful presentation. I do want to shout out to Sandy Mummy, former principal at Ocean Lake, who is the Health and Equity Administrator, and she's doing a wonderful job. The location of the November board meeting, we would like to ask the board to go back to in-person meeting. Maya-Lise Tolan and I just came back from presenting in Tucson, Arizona to a national workforce convention. Maya-Lise did a fabulous job of presenting along with Dan Lara from OCCC, and with me, my little squeaky box on what superintendents think about. But mostly it was them talking about our partnerships for career technical programs. 350 people finally got to get back together again. It was their 47th annual convention, and they were delighted to be back in public. And I was really delighted that Maya-Lise and Dan had an opportunity to share their excellent work in partnerships with people from different states. We had folks from Alaska, and I can't remember all the states, Maya-Lise, Iowa, and just different places to be able to share.
Montana.
The
coolest part is the district that we researched to model our internship and welding program after was in our presentation. And so then I got a little starstruck by it, but they told us that they thought we were doing great work and were more than willing to either come to us and look at what we're doing to give us feedback or have us go up there and get more ideas about how to expand our program. So we're excited about that.
What district?
Pardon me?
What district, Miley's?
I'm going to say it wrong. I said Arlington before, and I think it's Anacortes. I can look it up and get that to Eddie for you.
Where?
Anacortes, Washington.
Washington. I thought you said Montana.
Yes, and Montana.
Oh, that was just a different one that really thought we were cool.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
I was curious about the Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was national, so it's from across the United States. But anyway.
Just a question for Miley's. I'm wondering if you showed off your little nameplate that you welded.
I didn't, but I should definitely add that to the slideshow. So thank you for bringing that up, Peter. That's a good point.
Yeah, the welding program with the Port of Toledo was just a superstar in the meeting. So we'd like to have the meeting in Wallport November 9th. Are you guys amenable to that? You know, vaccinated, masked, distanced, doing everything you're doing already.
I miss you all.
We miss you too, and we miss going out to the buildings.
I'll be there. I'm not. I don't have a problem. I'm going to church already, but we're very, very circumspect at that. So as long as we maintain the proper protocols, I have no problem with it.
Yep. You know, September, October, even our all admin meeting is on Zoom. It's resuming in person next month as well. Our numbers are cascading down. We are getting to a better place. More people are being vaccinated, and you do miss out on a lot. Like Santila said, I mean, we miss you and we miss being in the community. So if the board is amenable, we would really like to have it in person starting again November 9th. We will continue to be on Zoom for October 26th.
I'll move that we go to Wallport this next time.
Yeah, we just need a thumbs up. That's great. Thank you so much.
So just to clarify, we will be at Crestview Heights Elementary School for the next regular business meeting of the board. Of course, that information will be updated in your calendars and posted all over the website and board folders. But Crestview Heights, you can tuck that in your brains for location.
That's it for me, Chair Colley.
All right. So looks like we are moving on to our adoption of the consent calendar. So any questions or comments, discussion about the consent calendar?
No.
Excellent. The chair entertains a motion to approve the consent calendar items as listed in the October 12th, 2021 board folder and personnel addendum distributed on October 12th, 2021.
I make the motion.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thanks, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We adopt the consent calendar. A couple of action items for facilities. Are we all oriented in our board packet?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. So the board, acting in its capacity as the local contract review board, approved findings of fact and the use of the construction manager general contractor CMGC process for standalone gymnasium at Yaquina View Elementary School. After that approval, requests for proposals were advertised in the Daily Journal of Commerce and OregonBuys.com. 2 proposals were received: Griffin Construction and DSL Builders Incorporated. The intent to award request for proposal to DSL Builders Incorporated. The intent to, oh, sorry, Santila, I thought you were saying something. The intent to award will be advertised on the Daily Journal of Commerce on October 13th, 2021. If no protest for 7 days, construction manager, general contractor, CMGC will be awarded to DSL Builders Incorporated. The chair will entertain a motion to award contract for CMGC services on the Aquina Gym to DSL Builders Incorporated, provided no protest is received within 7 days from October 13th, 2021.
I move that the board awards contract for CMGC services on the Aquina Elementary standalone gym to DSL Builders Incorporated.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes. That was a mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
The board, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the 2021-2022 board and superintendent goals as presented in the September board packet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
My brain fart.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh,
All in
you
favor?
lost it too for a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Thank you.
Great, and that passes as well. And we can move on to items of discussion and information. Looks like first we have, HR is going to speak with us about mandatory vaccine updates. Do we see
Sounds ominous.
Tiana here?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I see you. Well, I see your name anyway, sis. Thank you.
Oh, I have my camera on. I have my phone and my camera because I've got sound on one and audio or visual on the other. So
I see you in both spots now.
Okay, it's a little tricky.
Yeah.
Good. Well, good evening. I just wanted to update the board on the mandatory vaccination mandate from Governor Brown that's in effect October 18th, which is very soon. The district has been working hard to make sure that all of our staff are vaccinated or have religious or medical exceptions. And as Dr. Gray alluded to, 94% of our staff are vaccinated, which really is remarkable given the times and the circumstances around the vaccination at this point. So with 94% of our staff vaccinated, that leaves between 35, 36, 37 people, given what day it is, that require exceptions for either a medical or a religious reason. And once those exceptions came to the district, then the district has additional safeguards that we put in place for those employees who are accepted. Weekly testing provided by the district for any unvaccinated employees, wearing KN95 masks, and eating separate from other people, and then trying to not carpool or be really connected in small spaces with other staff. So it's been challenging for staff to go through some of those exceptions, and especially eating alone has, alone separate from other staff has caused some trepidation with staff, and they feel alienated. And so I've been working with them to try to help them understand that really it's about quarantining. And if unvaccinated staff end up eating with a COVID positive person, they end up having to quarantine 10 days out of school. And we really want to limit the number of staff who are out. We are strapped to fill our classrooms with adults. And so the more we can keep staff on campus, the better. So that's really the point of these additional safeguards, is to protect unvaccinated staff and to protect our unvaccinated students as well. You heard Dr. Gray talk about the vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. That will help. It really will help with the number of students that we have on quarantine. K-6, usually on any given day, we have about 125 students on quarantine. So when those students are out, the district is responsible for meaningful interaction with the teacher, but the teacher still has students in front of them. And so Katie and I have been working with the elementary principals, and we reassigned 3 classroom teachers to support the learning for quarantine students on a daily basis. And really, because they have siblings, some students are out 20 days. And so we want to make sure that their learning is maintained during that time and that they have high quality instruction from one of our teachers who already knows our materials, our adopted materials, and can make those good connections with them. So kind of have a lot of pieces working here with the mandate, but getting our students vaccinated will help, and making sure that our unvaccinated staff are weekly tested and those results come to me. And then we'll make plans for staff if they have to quarantine, if they're sick or have COVID. But ultimately, our staff just has been remarkable. They have been remarkable with getting information to us and being willing to be vaccinated. Quite a few staff actually got vaccinated after the mandate came out. They weren't all necessarily happy with it, but they love children and want to work and want to keep their jobs. And I know it was a difficult decision for some of them. And, people like to make their own decisions about things sometimes, but, ultimately less than 1%, it wasn't even negligible. Less than 1% of our staff resigned as a result of the mandate. So we're at that 94%, and we're just really proud of our staff for doing what they need to do for students.
If I may, how many
Sure.
do we have currently that are in that process, that are in the separation?
Students?
No, the staff.
Who are on quarantine?
Yeah, no, that are actually
The
eating
exceptions.
alone and going, that aren't willing to take the vaccine.
Oh yeah, we have 35. I have some coaches too that will go through it, but 35 out of our almost 570 current employees is a very small number.
Yeah, it is. It's a small percentage. And then the other question I have is, you mentioned the younger kids, how many have been out. How's it working in the junior and senior high? Middle school?
And Susan could speak to this. There's a couple different things that go that are more advantageous for secondary students. The 7 through 12 students are more vaccinated.
Right.
Our elementary students don't even have that opportunity. So there's a high number of students who are vaccinated, which means if they're a close contact, they don't have to quarantine. They still come to school. Okay. So we don't have as many students who are needing to quarantine. And then the second part of that is that if they do, I don't know if it's a positive from last year, but they are well versed in Google Classroom. The teachers put their materials online, and students are adept at getting what they need through the Google Classroom and through the online materials. And so teachers are putting those materials up regardless if kids are out or not, because they can access those later when they need to study. So, we have two kind of things going in favor for those secondary students, and the teachers are they're more accessible to the secondary students, and they're more easily online. I guess the elementary students require a little bit more help that our teachers can't provide right now because they have students in front of them at the same time.
Has Compass been able to get involved in this for the children? Or?
Well, that's a good question. And actually, Katie, we've talked about it as we moved on. Last year, we thought, we're just going to put the kids in Compass. Yeah, but Compass is full. I've got 4 teachers over there. Yeah, we have 4 teachers over there. And actually, we've just hired 2 more. So we're at 6. We're providing ESOL services for speakers of other languages. We have full kindergarten class, full first grade class, and then we hired a upper elementary teacher as well. So they're full, and they're rolling. They've got 6 teachers that are working hard. They don't have room to take any more. And then it's actually very disruptive because they have a class. They've got their students and they're rolling. And so if they have kids coming in and out from quarantine, it's disruptive to the teacher and to the students because they've created their own community.
Well, let me say this. I want to thank you for doing this. You've got yeoman's work there. So God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's
I'm in it.
The HR directors kind of joked at our last meeting that they introduced themselves as HR directors, and then someone introduced herself as the COVID tracking queen. Just it has changed. It's changed a lot of our work, but it this too shall pass, and we will keep on with the work of educating our children.
Keep doing it. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this also applied to the charter school?
Yes, and so we do have a couple of employees who work at the charter schools. And so the exceptions that we've provided, or the mandate that we are in compliance with, affects them as well. The charter schools, other than our employees, they manage their own HR and their own systems. But for the employees that we have, they do follow our rules. And if they have the exceptions, they'll use the additional precautions as well. And same with bus drivers, Sodexo. Yep, and all of our contractors. It applies to anyone who works with students or staff. The governor is intent on keeping students in school, which means that we need to have a healthy staff as well. And so all of our contractors are in compliance as well.
Well, one more question then. You brought up the bus drivers. I presume, I'm guessing, I think I read somewhere, if they refuse the vaccine, they can't drive, can they?
They can also apply for a medical or a religious exception as well. And so whatever the additional measures that First Student would put into place, they would need to comply and follow those rules as well.
Okay. But if they didn't do any of those, Mike, if they didn't go for an exception,
right,
and they refused to take a vaccine, they're terminated the same way.
That was my question.
Yes,
right.
I thought that was your question. No,
sorry. That's why Eddie is working.
It's everyone.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are welcome.
Next on to Kim.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. I have the right one.
Yep.
Okay, so we currently have, we have been in a 5-year lease agreement with Solutions, yes, for our copy machines that are in all of our buildings across the district. And that lease will be up on June 30th. However, because of the conditions presented by COVID and with manufacturing and supply delays, we were concerned that we wouldn't be able to replace our machines in June with new machines. And so Solutions, yes, came to us with a proposal to replace the copiers with all new machines. We would be entering a new 5-year lease, and we'll be saving $27,500 annually for the same copiers, with the exception that they will not have the fax boards in them requiring an independent fax line to the machine. We will be using a fax server, which is a cloud-based product. And I can tell you that tech is very excited about that prospect. The Solutions, yes, will pay off this remaining 6 months balance on our existing lease. So the new lease would start in December. If I was somewhat concerned about replacing copiers at the end of the 5 years, again, having that be in December, because we typically like to do that over the summer when the students aren't in the building. But I've been assured that we can do a month-to-month lease for the next 6 months to extend it through the end of June at the end of the lease if we need to. Let's see, they've locked in our prices at our August quote that they gave us, which helps to avoid the 7% manufacturer increase that they just found out about a couple of days ago. So that's going to be an additional savings to us. These prices will be locked in for 5 years. And again, you can see with the proposal that I sent you today, it's a significant savings over the 5 years. It'll be about $137,000. We have been extremely happy with this company. I've got no complaints with them whatsoever. They're an Oregon-based company. The owners worked for other companies such as Ricoh and Xerox and decided that Oregon wasn't getting the best service they could, and they decided to go out on their own, and they've been very successful because their customer service is excellent. It's beyond reproach, really. And they're out of Portland. Their service people come over from the Valley, but they are prompt and they get our machines fixed. And if they can't fix it, they'll bring us a new machine with no questions. So just really excited to be able to continue to work with them. This would be on an Omnia contract, which is a co-op contract that we are able to piggyback on, similar to what we did with ESS and with the Dell contract. So we can do this without an RFP. And I think I'll quit talking. Do you have any questions about that? There's a lot of information there. I gave you all of the contract documents in case you wanted to look at them. The other piece I wanted to mention is that lead time on these machines is about 6 to 8 weeks right now. So they'd really like to get them ordered. I should have gotten this on the September agenda, but I was too late. And so I would really like to see a board vote at the work session, if possible, in 2 weeks on, I think, the 26th. So that'll give you some time to think about this and ask any questions that you might have from us. Do you have any questions for me tonight?
There's no question. I just have a comment. Okay. I read every word of this document because I've been in a copy room when things didn't work. And I'm telling you, and I was not a teacher, and I would love to see us provide the best tool for the teachers to and the staff to work with. And if this is what we need to do, I will think favorably of it.
This is by far the best copier company I've worked with. Our rep is actually an owner in the company, and he came down after being in Arizona. He came down today to talk to me, or Monday, I guess it was, yesterday, for a half an hour. He came from Portland to talk to me for a half an hour, just to make sure that I understood and had all my questions answered. Their service is just outstanding.
And this is an annual savings to the district of $27,000.
Yes. Yep.
So we're not going to be able to vote on this tonight. We couldn't get it on the agenda for that. But if the board is amenable on October 26th at the work session, we generally don't like to do any kind of voting at the work session, but it is a board meeting and you're allowed to. So if you have any questions, you need to email the superintendent, and the superintendent will pass that question on to Kim.
And by voting, then that just gives us, hopefully we will be within the window where they can deliver and install these machines over winter break. And if that doesn't happen, we'll make it work. We'll still get the machines, but that would be ideal.
Thank you, Kim, for your efforts in this area. Back to you, Chair Colley.
Thank you. Looks like now we will hear from Rich Baloney. You have a couple things.
He does.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Good job, Eddie. So what you see in front of you is the construction excise tax rate. We got behind a few years ago, and we've been trying to catch up with the state, and this finally catches us up. It's only about a 7% raise on houses and 1 cent on non-residential, which is basically commercial. And then the $600 increase on the bottom down there is, so like if you build a big motel or a big warehouse, you only have to pay, the maximum I think is like $34,600. So it cuts off, so they don't have to pay forever. So, and I think the next page you can see what the state rate is, and so that catches us up with the state.
You would vote on this, I would assume, at the November meeting?
That's correct.
So Eddie, do make a note that we would be voting on this at the November 9th meeting, please.
Noted.
Thank you.
Any questions or anything about this? Rich, I also have here that you and Raina are going to talk to us about the Newport High School grandstands.
We are, and so I'm going to say a little bit, and then Raina's going to do all the important stuff. So some of you were on the tour when we looked at Newport High grandstands. You can see how poor shape they were, looking through them with the rust and the water dripping on the electrical. This is something that I took Dr. Gray with me when we first started. It was our first tour, and I took her through there, and every year it's on her agenda. What are you doing about the grandstands? And so finally, we were able to apply for $2 million of ESSER money from the state of Oregon. And through Raina's help and Kim's help and Carol in Kim's office, we were granted approval to use $2 million. So since then, we've been looking at different grandstands companies. And so Raina's got us a small slideshow. She cut it down from what it was originally to not do too much. So, and then afterwards, any questions you have, you can fire away at us.
Thank you. And before I get started, Rich did say that we cut it down quite a bit, and you should have received several pictures. The pictures that we received, we handed out as handouts at our second stakeholder meeting. So I just want to thank Karen so much and Rich for all of the work that they've done on this. I hope that you have seen our grandstands and know how much we need this. So we're really excited for this process. So far to date, we have been exploring different grandstands, two specific contractors, and we've held 2 stakeholder meetings. The first one was really specific for Newport High School staff and coaches. And then the second one was a community meeting where we invited a bunch of different stakeholders in to look at the designs. So timeline wise, this is our hope to select a contractor to clean out the grandstands, which we've actually started some of that. We're hoping we can go through some demolition and then work through to have it ready. We would love to have it ready by the time school starts, where we could have our first football game in our grandstands. So this picture is one I like to share. The white part, you can see kind of where our current grandstands are. They're undersized for our school, so we actually can't fit our entire student body in the grandstands, which has been a challenge during COVID when if we need to have any kind of assembly or anything like that, we actually can't fit in an outdoor space. And this is the only outdoor space that qualifies under Oregon Department of Education definition. But as you can see that black square there, that's how much it would extend to the east, which would really allow us to have a much larger grandstands, which would allow us to hold our entire student body, which would be amazing. So we're looking at 2 different grandstand companies, Southern Bleacher and Dan Clayton, and they've been great so far to work with. This is an example of Southern Bleacher. It's from a school up in Washington at White River. Here's another picture. Ours would look a little bit different because of the size. Our stairs can't go in the middle of the bleacher like it is shown here, but it's a similar structure. And then this is the Dan Clayton example, which is actually a rendering of what it would look like. And so you can see the press box in the back of the grandstands really on both of these, which is a nice enclosed space with our weather in particular. And again, another rendering here.
This one, the Dan Clayton one, that's a lot more seats than we would be getting in the press box, is a lot bigger, but it's still a close rendering of what it would be.
So either design has our ADA seating in the front because of just the way that the ramps would be. That's the design for both. And so we're really excited to have that feature with our grandstands. And then just because it's kind of a different design than I had seen, I wanted to make sure to show this picture. What we're looking at design-wise is kind of a standalone bleacher. So this is an example if you can kind of picture under the grandstand. And so under the grandstand facilities, that's where we would have our bathrooms and storage. And this part would actually be built by Lincoln County School District staff. It would be kind of a next phase after we do finish the grandstand. And so this is kind of what it looks like here. If you're looking at a side view from the west, looking at the grandstands, it would have the buildings built in underneath. And again, it does connect to well, it doesn't actually connect in this design, but it's backed up to our existing art room. And then it's hard to see on this screen, but you should have in your packet copies of this. This is an example of what we're looking at for under the grandstand. So we still need a storage facility that can hold the gator and all of the equipment needed to maintain the field. But it gives us the opportunity for some single use family restroom styles, and then some additional restrooms, as well as plenty of storage for all of our equipment. So that's all I have, unless there's questions.
I have a question. I think maybe I just lost the thought. I'm curious, what's going on with the back end? In other words, the school side of that, the building that it's butted up against. So what are we doing with that mess back there?
So when we demo the building, then we will go in and we actually re-roof the building this summer. We'll add onto that roofing and take it over the top and have a parapet, and then we will re-side and refinish that, whatever. I don't know what kind of shape it's been because it's leaked. Could have some rot, could not. We'll go pull the siding off of it, fix it, and we'll re-side it. And so when we build the new one, it will not be connected. We'll probably put something in there to make it look like it is from the outside, so somebody can't go wandering and get in behind it, between it, where they shouldn't be. But they will not be connected any longer, and we'll fix anything that's wrong with the art room or the shop.
So you're going to go in, are you going to go in and clean that up in there as well, or
yes,
the shop itself? Because that's kind of a mess too. So
yeah, that'll be probably a maintenance issue. It's where it's, like you say, where it's leaked. And well, once
I'm talking about inside the shop, though, the shop itself, the actual work for the students, that was kind of pitiful as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, it's not in this $2 million, but it can be in the facilities, and we'll work with Casey and Raina to make that happen. And I'm sure that between the two of them, they already have a wish list going that they just haven't.
Yeah, that's something that I think really needs to be taken care of. To me, that's as important, if not more so, than the stands, because the leaking is obviously a problem, but that's an area where you've got a lot of kids that could use that kind of stuff right now, especially now. So I'm just saying, it'd be nice to have that working properly.
Mike, I've had good conversation with Mr. Maloney about the situation in that shop that we saw on our tour. Mm-hmm. And I do think it was, I guess the term I would use is disturbing. Yeah. And so he's well aware of that, as is Raina. And
I know Raina is.
We're having conversation about what is the best avenue forward about that, and we'll keep you posted.
I think whatever we can do to make that better in there, I'd be on board with. So
thank you.
You got my vote on fixing that mess. So that's all I got to say.
Anything else on this, Rich?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Karen.
I was asking if Rich and Raina had anything else on this they wanted to present.
No, I think Peter had a question, but I
did. I'm sorry. It's kind of weird with all the Zoom to kind of know when to speak. I did have a question. The $2 million, that's just for the stadium structure, or does that amount include the construction underneath as well?
Our hope is that it concludes the construction underneath, and we're working on that right now. And I've got to meet with Dr. Gray on Friday to go through what I think is our costs and where we're at. And then the next step then will be to bring it back to you guys and tell you exactly what we're going to do for the exact amount of money. And when we can do it and why.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
We're very excited about the project. Raina has had 2 stakeholder meetings with the community. She did that with coaches. She did that with parents. She did that with teachers to get their input. We've had good input from former athletic director Wayne Spencer and a couple of other folks, some boosters. And I think that Rich and Raina have done an excellent job of getting some good feedback. We're talking about a very small amount of money and we have to make it work. Yeah. And so Rich is just spectacular, kind of wheeling and dealing and getting the right things for the right price and getting it all done on time. You know, remember, we have another big project at Yaquina View, which is a $3 million gym.
Right.
And then we have a $750,000 project at the Early Learning Center. So there's a lot of construction and building going on, trying to bring our facilities. And that's one of your strategic goals in the board, is to have warm and welcoming facilities.
Exactly.
Is one of your strategic goals.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then it looks like that just brings us to our reminder. Dr. Gray, would you like to do that, or would you like me to go through those?
If you don't mind, go on ahead, Chair Colley.
Happy to. So we have our work session coming up on the 26th, and I'm sure Eddie will be sending us out a lovely reminder about that. And that looks like that's via Zoom this time as well. Yes? It is. Great. We have an equity team meeting on the 28th. And what time is that? Can you remind me?
It is 4 o'clock, 4 to 5:30.
So I am the designated permanent member on that. And I have to say, unfortunately, my schedule has changed and I have meetings from 3:30 to 6 every Thursday as part of my clinical coordination responsibility. So I will not be able to be doing that on Thursday afternoons.
Might that change in the next semester?
No.
Okay, so the board is going to have to think about a different member, because our idea is to have a permanent member and then rotate you so that there's always an opportunity for a board member to be involved in our equity team, which, by the way, is growing. So it would look like the board is going to need to figure out who can be the permanent member on the equity team. We meet the fourth Thursday of the month from 4 to 5:30. Marty Perez, the principal at Sam Case, and I are the co-chairs.
It's super good too. I'm really disappointed. But that's
working on policy this year. So it's going to be, we're crafting an equity lens for the district. It's going to be really important that the board is involved in this, because ultimately the board has to approve it.
So might that be something that board members can sort of think about and we can discuss during the work session on the 26th?
Or at the board meeting on the 9th, because then Liz will be back.
Oh, great. Okay.
Because Liz isn't here to talk about it, and she's really very excited about that. So, and she's attended some of our meetings. So why don't we wait till November 9th at the next board meeting? And Eddie, if you'll make sure that that gets on the board's agenda and some kind of action to vote on a permanent member of the equity team. And then Eddie will work on rotating you in, except for you, Megan. We won't be able to rotate you in this year.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, mine right now it's just the schedule. I need to look at schedule, so I'll give it some thinking.
Great.
Should we go ahead and still have either Mike or myself or Santilla go to the 28th meeting?
We'd appreciate it. Most certainly. You can't have more than 2 of you because otherwise you have a majority. But we certainly could use one of you.
I'll go to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Peter. So that's it's on Zoom.
I will send out an email to the board just to double check in case, after some thought and calendar comparisons, if a second member would like to attend the 28th. So I've got Peter will definitely be attending, and I will just poll the group to see if there's a second member that it works for.
Very good.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie.
And then it looks like our final reminder is about just our regularly scheduled board meeting on the 9th, which is going to be in Newport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Westview Heights.
All right. Any other questions? Nothing I'm missing? No, I'm scrolling down the whole way. Anything else I'm missing? Anything for the good of the order?
You're repeating. Nope.
Thank
Good
you.
job tonight. I appreciate it. It's a good meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, thanks. And we will adjourn.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Megan.
Good night.
Good night.